Right, well this will be my second attempt at commentating live during a 15-minute game. The first attempt I won, but in terms of commentary it was a bit of a disaster, probably. So I'll be trying to put more focus on that this time, especially during my opponent's moves. I think I can do better doing that. And it looks like it's going to be another Caro-Kann. As you can see, I don't display my opponent's rating. I tend to find that makes me change my moves a bit, or it's best to just think of your opponent as good as you, and we're getting exactly the same opening as I had that time actually, so that's interesting. Should be able to do better, because I did do a little bit of analysis in the opening afterwards with the computer, and this is a bit of a less ambitious opening, I would say. Usually they well, the opponent often chooses to chase that bishop around, but he's not doing that this time. So I just want to play c5, there may be something like knight e7, knight f5, bishop e7, castle, something along those lines. Right, I can't take with the bishop because of queen b5 check, picking up bishop. So I've got a choice of knight a6 or queen a5. Knight a6 looks much more natural. Well, knight a6 runs into c6. That's a hassle. Does it run into c6? Well, maybe it doesn't, because I can just play knight takes pawn with tempo on the queen. Funny. He doesn't have a light square bishop, so my knight isn't so bad on a6, maybe. So I'm looking at playing bishop takes c5, knight e7, castles kingside. With that said, okay. Now again we have the issue of takes queen b5, I think. Takes queen b5. But it means if I get my knight to f5, I pick up tempo on his bishop. Probably I just need to play the check here and just get the pawn back. And I don't mind if the dark square bishops come off the board, but with that said, maybe knight takes is the better move. Just centralising the knight, which is out of play at the moment. Where's this queen going to go? Yeah, let's play this. Pick up a tempo on his queen. I don't think his queen has any particularly good squares to get here. He doesn't think so either. And now I get to develop my bishop with gain of time. Obviously I've got to watch out for nonsense like b4, but he's not ready to support b4 yet. That would fork my queen and bishop. I'm quite happy with my position at the moment. Okay, so he's thinking that well, he's threatening knight c7 fork, but I don't think this is a big deal at all, because I can just castle queenside immediately. And sure, he's coming to d6, but if he does that I can just take with my bishop, and I'm sure that pawn will be weak on d6. Yeah, castle's queenside, what else? My bishop's covering a7, so that's not an issue. I think this has got to be favourable for black. I've got good central control. I've got this bishop. Pair of knights is often not that great, because they've got only... They don't usually have enough good outposts for two of them. But I still don't really want this knight hanging around here, so I'm going to chase it away. If it comes to d6, I just get a pawn. Yeah, it's not coming to d6. I guess it's true that he's got a decent outpost for his knight, but only for one of them. Alright, just normal development, I think. I may come to c6 rather than f5. Right, so I've got to find a use for my rooks soon as well. I think knight c6 has got to make sense. I'm quite happy with pawn takes. It would give me play with a rook down the b file, which I would then have open. And if I take twice on d4 here, I think it would be slightly favourable for me, because this d4 pawn that he would have would be sort of the base of the pawn chain would be exposed to attack in a way that my f7 and b7 pawn sort of bases aren't, because they're not on open files. Well, maybe that doesn't quite make sense, but I can just imagine myself getting pressure on d4 more easily than he can on b7 or f7. Probably I'll follow with something like king d. Okay. Right. Well, the difference here is if I take on d4, then now my c pawn would be exposed to attack. So I only really want to take once if I'm immediately ready to play c5. But I don't need to do that at all. I can just bring my king here, play rook b8, get play on the b file. Maybe he'll be looking at trying to play f4, f5. I think that would make sense for his position. But I should be able to contest the file. I guess my bishop isn't doing that much at the moment, but it's ready to take off his only money piece, so it can't be all bad. This is a much easier position to commentate than my first one, actually. The first one I didn't really know what was going on. It was weird, unbalanced position, where I was hallucinating a kingside attack and my opponent had clear queenside play. Okay. So he's putting the question to my bishop. If I take on d4, he takes the pawn. He's already clamping down on my c-pawn break. If I play bishop a6, then probably a4 with the idea of b5. And he would have pressure on my bishop, but well, so no, bishop b6, a4, with his idea of being b5, takes, knight takes. He's got a horrible c-pawn in that position. Yeah, I think I prefer this. Just because his rook isn't all lined up against this bishop yet on b6. If he does push this a4 b5 idea, I think I will get quicker pressure against c3. Right. And I guess that's just to secure his back rank against funny checkmates. So now I'm looking at bishop takes d4 again. Well, I'd say I'm looking at that. Really, if I was going to play that, maybe I should have just played it last move. So it's more a matter of deciding where I want my bishops to go. I don't think he really can get f4, f5 through, because if he starts looking at that, I can just play g6. So probably I want to play something like rook b8, rook hc8, and then c5. That seems reasonably logical to me. Yeah, I like that. Protect my bishop. Get my rooks in logical positions, and I'm ready to push. c5. I think my position's got the potential to be better. I wouldn't say it's necessarily better right now. It depends how he plays this a3. I'm not fussed about a3. Whatever. Just getting ready to push c5. Or even to push a5, I suppose. a5. Isolates its pawns, but it means I don't. If a5, b takes, bishop takes. Yeah, I mean, he gets this past a pawn, but I do get pressure on c3 immediately with the bishop on a5. And I don't think it couldn't go like a5, b4, because pawn takes, knight takes. Then I've got this bishop takes sack on f2 with check, and then I pick up the knight, I think. Yeah, this isn't too bad at all. When I was playing blindfold chess, obviously I wouldn't be able to provide commentary and do blindfold chess at the same time, but it's sort of simplified positions like this that were much easier to play. Okay, I don't see why I shouldn't play c5 now. No, c5's got to be excellent here. If he takes, I just win a pawn. And if he doesn't take, then I can play like c4, and then if he plays knight d4 I can take, and I've got this nice pass pawn on c4. Yeah, I just don't want to take on b4 and allow a takes, I guess. That wouldn't be so great. So maybe I'm looking at something like c4 followed by a5. Anyway, I'm quite optimistic about this position now. My king's much more nicely centralised than his as well, and I don't think there's any real downside to that. No threat of checkmate, and I'm getting play on the only meaningful lines on the board with my rooks. Of course, the nightmare situation in a position like this would be, say, if you had a light square bishop and the opponent got their knight to d6. The fact that I've always had the dark square bishops meant that outpost hasn't played any significant role. I guess my king's a downside maybe in terms of if I was thinking of playing d4. I don't think I am thinking of that at all. But he would be sort of exposed there. Okay, that's... Well, I guess c takes b is a bit more palatable now, but the main point of this move maybe is that if I play c4 he can play knight d4, and if takes then rook takes. It's not so easy to know whether that's good or bad. If I play c takes b, I think he's got to play... No, just c takes b, I guess. Because then if he plays a takes, I win the c3 pawn. And if he plays c takes, then my rook penetrates and comes down to c3. Yeah. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, so now just rook. What's wrong with rook c3? Even rook c2's got benefits in terms of this concentrated attack on f2, but I think rook c3. If his knight moves pretty much anywhere, then I'll just take it, and this lets me double quite smoothly. Can't be bad. Alright, but now I've got to work out how to make progress. Something like... What about doubling on the third rank? That's a bit unusual, but I'm not quite sure what his knight would do. Something like rook d3, rook c1, rook c3. What else have I got? I mean, I've been looking at bishop c7 as well. He would play f4. But I think I prefer this idea. Doubling on the third rank. I can always... It's more logical to drop the bishop back when it's not blocking up the file. And my time's getting a bit shorter now. So although I think I'm providing better commentary this game. Okay, what's he doing? If I play this, he's looking at playing knight c1, I guess. Is that a problem? I don't think it is. I can just drop my rook, I think. What? Okay, I don't think that's good. I think that's desperation. Because I can block with this rook. He doesn't get any real play because I can just play rook c7, you see. And if he goes like, yeah, and now I get rook a3. So that's wonderful for me. Yeah, he's still not going to get much play because I can just play rook c. If he plays rook b7, I can play rook c3. Not a problem. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold this a5 pawn, of course, but right, that's not a problem either. You can do that. That's fine. Right, I don't see where that's... I think he's underestimating my... play with this pawn, it seems to me. He's got to take it seriously. I don't Don't think it'll win the game for me, but if he's going to screw around, it will. It might be time for me to start looking at f6 to help me. Maybe I needed to play rook a7 when I had the chance then. Maybe. Okay, let's see what happens here. It's true this e5 pawn does have a role now in making my king have no escape squares. I'd be much happier if that pawn wasn't on e5 now, so that I could go to f6 if he starts checking on the second rank, because it is. He's might have a perpetual or just be able to massacre my pawns on f7, etc. Yeah, I can't hold this pawn, but I think this is still okay. If one rook comes off the board, I get this nice central mass rolling forwards, because I was 2 pawns up. Interesting. Well, he's opened up his second rack now. Let's just get these rooks off the board. He's going to have to take. Yeah. This is actually a little bit awkward, maybe. Oh, it's just this extra pawn, this pawn he's got. I need to be quick with my play. Need to keep him occupied. Now my king's going to come around to f5. Right, so now I've got the chance of a king and pawn ending. It looks good to me, doesn't it? Takes. I don't think he can... He must run out of moves somewhere. Because his king, the moment his king moves anywhere, any legal square, he loses e5. So the only moves he's got are pawn moves here. But I'm sure I can match them, or block them. Yeah, I think this must be winning for black. What can he do? He's got to give up a pawn, or if he plays h4 I can play g6, and then he's got to move his king. Yeah. King and pawn endings have a great sense of inevitability, so although... Yeah, there goes the pawn. I think this will just cause him to have to give ground again, because I can play, yeah. He's going to have to give ground. Like this. Yes! Okay, so let's go and see. Was it winning? Yes, it was winning. Let's have a quick look to see what I missed. Is he still? Yeah, he's gone. So I sometimes feel it's a little bit nasty to use the analysis board if my opponent's still observing, because it looks, they might think that I'm trying to point out things to them that they already know. And there's his rating, by the way, 1690, which we couldn't see during the game. So far so normal. I'm not used to seeing takes there, I have to say. I'm not sure that's good. Was I wrong about this? Check. Yeah. Well, this leads into complications. A computer might be happy to play this. I'm really not sure I would be. The idea there would be that black would have a lot of compensation for the lost pawn. But why not just have a simple game, you know? Okay. Maybe that wasn't good. Let's see. So takes. 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 Check. Okay, and again we're looking at that compensation for the pawn. I mean, from my point of view, I'm very happy the light square bishops come off, because I've got pawns on light squares that would otherwise, well, that was why I brought the bishop out before playing e6, so it wouldn't get trapped in the pawn chain. I won't spend too long on this analysis, I just want to see what I missed, or whether it all went fairly smoothly. I mean, so far the moves have been very simple to come up with. And it's, yeah, fairly even. King d7, yeah. Bishop b6, I got that one. So it thought c5 immediately. B takes, bishop. Would he really have played b takes though? Oh well, he had to, other than a right move. Yeah, what else? So he's got to take there. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd have immediately isolated this pawn. For whatever reason, it didn't seem so obvious to me that that would be what would happen. But you can see that the computer's starting to prefer black now, just because of the play he's getting, and I didn't think that was a very good move. Because, well, I'm just taking the c file now. I wonder, what did it think of rook c2? It did prefer rook c3. Rook c2, rook c1, like that. Okay, that would start running into problems with the file getting blocked up. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, glad that didn't happen. All quite straightforward. What did he do here? Yeah. Yeah, that... I thought maybe this would put up more resistance. Maybe yeah, that would have put up a lot more resistance. What am I looking at here? Nothing immediate. That was just giving me a clear path. He doesn't really get any meaningful activity. Yeah. I mean, rook a7 here doesn't work so well, because I always want to be able to meet rook b7 with rook c3 and keep a rook blocking the 7th rank, or my 2nd rank. Yeah, he was always going to get that pawn back. Was there anything better than f6 here? Rook e1. Yeah, rook e1, f4, rook e2, king h3. Yeah, that's just very interesting. You just you realise you're going to lose the rook, so you get your f6 in now while your rook has pressure on e5. E takes, king takes. It's quite instructive. If you realise you're going to give up a pawn, then get the maximum activity out of it. Don't bother like fake protection. That's never going to work. Takes. So that an immediate d4 wasn't so great. My issue was that I was worried that if I tried to move my king, then I'd get into trouble trying to protect this square, so I wanted to sort of tie him down. And I thought that he couldn't take with the advanced d-pawn without trading into a lost king and pawn ending, maybe, which was what happened in the end. Yeah, and that was just dead bad. I don't think there's going to be much to say from here. It's just a dead lost king and pawn ending. What can he do? His king has to just keep giving ground. So let's play the computer moves. Yeah. If he comes here, then I just play here. So king e1. I can either... Well, I think I can just take the opposition immediately. More straightforward. And he's losing this pawn. Might as well just take it. And there's no way you can stop both pawns. He couldn't even stop one of them if I had the correct opposition with my king. Yeah, there's no point even playing that out. But hopefully I gave better commentary this time.